We're here at TEDxBeaconStreet, and I'm sitting down with Abigail Noble, CEO of The Impact. Thanks for taking the time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
Yeah. So before we get into your talk that you just gave, tell us a little bit about The Impact. What is it?
So The Impact is a nonprofit that is a network of families who commit to make impact investments, and they want to make them more effectively. It's co-founded by a bunch of visionary individuals: Justin Rockefeller, Liesl Pritzker-Simmons, Gene Case, the Omidyar Network, Jim Sorensen, who's a serial entrepreneur out in Utah, and several others who think that we can accelerate the pace and increase the probability of investment markets producing the change that we want in the world.
Oh, great. And so your talk, it had to do a little bit with The Impact and their mission. So tell us about your talk. What was it?
Sure. So the talk was about impact investing in general, which is a topic that a lot of people are interested in. It's become quite a sexy topic. At the same time, not as many people are doing it, but that's increasingly changing, where there are a lot more investors that are engaging in impact investing. But over the past 5 years, it's taken a lot of work to bring those investors from the sidelines and onto the field and into engaging in impact investing. So when I was working at the World Economic Forum, one of the approaches that we used was to design games that hedge fund managers could play and bank CEOs could engage in. And what was critical is respecting everyone's starting points and giving them a safe space to explore, to suspend assumptions, open up mindsets, and lean into the possibilities. So it was very much a test kitchen of including in the ingredient of social impact with these financial advisors, essentially as the chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So we did this at Davos for 4 years. And for us, it was one of the key components of bringing impact investing from the margins into the mainstream. And right now, what we're seeing is that there are a lot of millennials that are interested in impact investing. And, everyone actually is thinking about, how do I create the world that I want to live in? The lever that we usually think about is, how do I volunteer my time, or how do I donate to charity? But there's so much we can do with the products we purchase, with the investment decisions that we make, so that our investment dollars help create the world that we want to live in. It can be a powerful force of change.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating that these two things that especially younger people right now see as totally separate. I'm going to make my personal investments, but I'm also going to give money to charity, donate my time. And I think it's fascinating. And the talk, obviously goes into more detail about this, about the intersection and how they can be one and the same.
Yeah.
And I also have another question for you. Advice for young people, if they're hearing this interview, they see your talk, and they want to get involved in the impact space. How can they do that?
So there are many pathways to get engaged in something like impact investing. And it could begin with, within the small investment account you have, or your 401k, looking for socially responsible funds. It could begin with, when you're choosing between two products, choosing one that's more socially responsible, because enough people do that, you start to create the demand for socially responsible products, and those companies start to grow in market value. So we can create the next tipping point through the investment decisions the investment and the purchasing decisions that we make. But the other thing is that when you start to make job choices and career choices, think about ways that you can get the most exposure to problems around the world and problems that you're passionate about, learning about innovative approaches to solving them, and being an ambassador between sectors, learning about social change on the ground, and then also understanding what decisions are made within a boardroom. One of the things that I found very valuable was bouncing back and forth between the two voices in my head, one voice that's a hard-nosed pragmatist and the other voice that's a bleeding heart idealist. And that oftentimes we think that we really need to give more airtime to the bleeding heart idealist if we want to make change.
Yeah.
But the delta of change can be so much greater if you're working with a hard-nosed pragmatist and figuring out those intersecting points and figuring out how you could bring something that you're passionate about into the mainstream.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Abigail Noble, you can see her talk at TEDxBeaconStreet.com.